Hi everyone, today we're talking about one-step addition and subtraction equations. As a reminder, you do not need to write down everything that we'll cover in this video, but be sure to jot down important information and at least one example of each type of problem that we'll cover. Also remember that you can pause to jot down important notes, rewind to view information again, and fast forward if you think you got it. But be careful, make sure you don't fast forward too much that you miss out on something important. So as a reminder, expressions are math problems with no symbols. Inequalities have the inequality symbol, and equations have the equal sign. So today we're talking about one-step equations that involve addition or subtraction. So that's why that's in red. An equation shows that the values on the left-hand side are equal to the values on the right-hand side. So I usually like to think about those values on a scale because a scale has to keep things equal. So if you're going to do something to one side, you have to do it to the other side because you want to keep that scale balanced. You want to keep both sides equal. Be sure to jot that down in your notes before you continue on. All right, so in this example, we have x plus 2 equals 7. So make sure that you have this drawn in your notebook, that there's a scale. On one side, the left-hand side, you have a box that's labeled x. You have no idea what's inside because remember, a variable stands for an unknown value. So it's just a box on the left-hand side of your scale labeled x, box x. No clue what's inside. But if you add 2 marbles to that same side, it's going to balance out with 7 marbles on the right-hand side. So now it's our job to figure out how many marbles are actually in that box X. So you probably already know what it is, but if you're thinking to yourself how you would put on or take off marbles to make them even, then you're going to have to do what's called inverse operations. So if we wanted to make them even, we would have to make sure both sides have the same thing done to them. So if I were to take off 2 marbles on the left-hand side, then the right-hand side would clunk down and it would be much heavier, right? So to make it even, if I take off 2 on the left-hand side, I have to take off 2 on the right-hand side as well to keep them balanced. So that's why we subtracted 2 on both sides. Now, since we did the same thing to both sides, we subtracted 2 marbles, they're back to being equal. And then we can clearly see, hey, this one box X is actually the same weight as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 marbles. So it must be that there are also 5 blue marbles inside box X. So that's how you can get your answer. The answer would be 5. So algebraically, when we look at the equation, we have x plus 2 equals 7. We subtracted 2 on this side, and we subtracted 2 on the other side. So we end up with the plus 2 and the minus 2 kind of canceling each other out. Because you added 2 and then you subtracted 2, they kind of undo each other. And then 7 minus 2 is equal to 5, so that's how we got the answer that the box X was equal to 5. So thinking about it as a scale, we have to make sure that we do the same thing to both sides. If we just subtract 2 on one side and not the other, then that scale is going to be lopsided. So we have to do the same thing, and then we'll end up with our mystery box equal to the other side, which is 5. So be sure you have this written in your notebook and the important term inverse operations. The opposite is what you have to do to both sides. This was x plus 2, so the opposite is to subtract 2 on both sides. Addition and subtraction are inverse or opposite operations. And like I said, algebraically, if you didn't want to draw the scale, you would just perform your inverse operation. So if the equation was x minus 120 equals 80, then you would, instead of subtracting 120, you would add 120, and you would have to do that to both sides. The left-hand side would cancel out, so you just have x equals 80 plus 120 is 200. So the x stood for 200. 200 subtracting 120 got you that 80. If it's y plus 14 equals 20, the inverse operation of plus 14 is subtract 14. You gotta do that on both sides. Cancels out on the left-hand side to just get y, and 20 minus 14 is 6. So you know your answer is 6. 6 plus 14 equals 20. So inverse operations, very important, especially if you don't want to go around drawing a scale or anything. Then you can quickly figure things out. So be sure to jot that down, and we're going to try a couple of problems as practice. All right, so here we're going to try to solve this equation without drawing a scale and all that. So pause the video and try it on your own first. So we have p plus 12 equals 30. P is what we want alone by itself at the end. We want to figure out what that answer is. So what I like to do is I'll draw myself a fence separating my left and my right hand side. If I want to get P by itself, that means I need to get rid of this plus 12. So it's like I'm getting rid of 12 marbles on the left hand side. If I do that, I gotta make sure I get rid of 12 marbles on the right hand side as well to keep it balanced, because remember, there's that equal sign. So I want to create a true statement. Minus 12 is equal to minus 12. 12 minus 12 cancels, so I end up with just P on this side that's left over. 30 minus 12 is 18. So my answer is P equals 18. So again, all I did was I saw what was attached to P. I did the opposite. Instead of plus 12, I subtracted 12 to both sides. It cancels on that side with the P, and then I just do normal math to see what it's equal to. All right, let's try this last one. It says solve the equation x minus 9 equals 1. Pause the video and try it on your own. So remember, we want to get x by itself at the end. We want to figure out what is inside that box x, how many marbles are equal to it. So we have subtracting 9. The opposite would be to add 9 to both sides because we want to make sure it's a true statement. Subtracting 9 and then adding 9 back cancels each other out. You're undoing each other, so we end up with just x. And then this right here is 1 plus 9, which is 10. So 10 minus 9 is equal to 1. I know it sounds really easy right now, but eventually you're going to have harder numbers, and you can't just look at it and kind of guess the number. So you do want to practice this algebraic method of using inverse operations. If on a quiz I want to see your work, this is what the work is. Okay? So let me know as you're working on these problems if you have any questions, and I'll see you in class.